Hello everyone and welcome to Danomics. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the clay volume module. We're going to look at how we can set parameters through crossplots and log plots, and we're going to be interpreting our data to have a Vclay from both the gamma ray and neutron density methods. So let's get started. At this point, you should have already created your petrophysical interpretation. You should have set your key well, and you should have already done the interpretation ready data part of our workflow, where you've gone through the setup, curve normalization, and bad hole ID and repair modules. Although that's not required and you can come straight to clay volume, at the end of the day, you probably want to make sure that your data has been properly conditioned and repaired before you start this interpretation. So to begin our clay volume interpretation, we'll go down to our central drop-down selection menu, and we'll select the clay volume module. So here on my key well, and make sure the key wells are active well because we're going to be setting some methods and parameters here. What we want to do is perform an interpretation of our Vclay from gamma ray and our Vclay from neutron density. So there are a few things that we can start. First of all, we have some lithology presets. What these do are they allow you to identify what the lithology is before we start the interpretation. And this provides us just with some slightly better starting defaults. So most of our reservoirs here are sandstone. So I'm going to set this as sandstone. And the Lewis has some limestones in it. So I'm going to set limestone there. The Niobrara is an organic shale, and the Maori is also an organic shale. So I'm going to set those up specifically. And you'll notice that that's now changed some of my basic defaults. Now we'll still go in and customize these on a zone by zone basis. Before I get started, I do want to just make my gamma ray track here a little bit wider so I can see a bit better. So I'm going to give this a width of 150, and I'm going to scale this from, let's say, 0 to 250. Okay, that's just really to give us some extra room to work with here. Now, I like to interpret my Vclay from neutron density first, and to do that, I use a crossplot. So I click on my crossplot menu and make sure that I have my neutron density crossplot selected. And I can click on the settings for this. Once I've brought up my crossplot, I can see that I have multiple sets here of parameters. And, and when you're displaying multiple sets of parameters, you can actually change these parameters for every zone all at once. So here I see that all of my zones have the same Vclay endpoints for neutron density. I want to change these. I believe I have a kaolinite clay here, so I'm going to set these here, and then I'm going to make a few changes on zones individually. So, for example, in my Teapot, Parkman, Sussex, Shannon, Carlisle, Frontier, Muddy, and Dakota formations, these are all sandstones. So I'm going to make sure that I have my matrix point here as a sandstone, and my clean point here as also on my sandstone trend line. You'll notice that if I change this, the parameter will change here in my parameter table. We can expand out the entire parameter table by clicking the Advanced tab, where it'll show us what's using a default versus what has been changed. Okay, so now that I've set it for those, I now want to set it for the Niobrara and Maori formations. These are organic shales, and I believe they have almost a limestone matrix. So I'm going to come in and make this adjustment here. And I might also want to adjust my clay endpoint if I feel that I need to. And then finally, we had our shallower zones that need to be set here. And in this case, I'm going to set both what's called the pre-zone, so that's everything that's above my uppermost top, and my Lewis together. So I'm going to select those formations. And these are more limestone in nature in this case. And you can do this interpretation however you like. It really depends on how you want to set these points, but you essentially want to bound your data here. And so once you've done that, we've now performed our Vclay interpretation for neutron density. Now we want to come in and set our Vclay gamma ray. How do we do this? Well, we can come in and set general defaults for all the zones, and we can come make adjustments on a zone by zone basis. To get started, I'm just going to set some general defaults. The data in this part of the field has generally high gamma rays, so I'm going to set a clean value of 60 and a clay value of 180. So when I do that, I see that this has now been changed for all my zones. And what I want to do is I want to ensure that my interpretations from Vclay from gamma ray and Vclay from neutron density match. So once I've done this, I can now come in and I can simply drag and drop the clean and clay parameter inlines until I achieve the match that I'm looking for here. So I can come in and do this zone by zone. And in some cases, you'll notice that you're not able to achieve an exact match. That's not unexpected for those of you who are experienced petrophysicists. But for those of you who maybe haven't used multiple methods before, I just want you to be aware that we're trying to get a good match between our two methods. But I want you to also understand that we're not going to get a perfect match between these two methods. The reason that we're using multiple methods and that we're trying to calibrate them is when we move to wells that may not have the data to use multiple methods, we want to make sure that we have a consistent answer. And by setting it zone by zone, this is how we can make sure that we do have a consistent answer here across our wells. Okay, and we're going to just make the last few changes here. And now we have our Vclay from both gamma ray and neutron density, and we've calibrated it so we've achieved a pretty ideal match across all of our zones. Okay, that's it for this video, and you've now finished interpreting your clay volume properties. If you have any questions about how to do this, please feel free to contact us at support@danomics.com. Thank you.